Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's episode of Trade the Chain. It is a happy Monday because it was a very happy weekend. We'll get to all that later, but it is February 1st, not January anymore. I'm joined by my co-host Ryan Gorman and our crypto analyst Matt Montemayor, otherwise known as Monty, and CJ the Kimono. We'll be delving into the big boards today, as well as hitting up some sentiment analysis on Doge and what's been going on over the last 48, 72 hours. So I'll let you take it away, Ryan.
Thanks a lot, Alex. This is just a reminder that everything provided, all information provided on Trade the Chain is strictly for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is not investment advice and should absolutely not be construed as such. Trade the Chain is brought to you by Trade the Chain, a global 24/7 community of traders of all different levels and abilities across 20 time zones around the world that use AI-driven sentiment indicators and actionable alerts to help them make more informed trading decisions. Trade like a crypto insider, a 14-day trial on tradethechain.com.
And then we have Monty and myself's community over at marketrebellion.com/crypto. Get access to exclusive trade ideas, our macro portfolio allocations, a pro charting platform, a trading education curriculum, and an elite community of traders all throughout the world, and much more. If you're serious about trading crypto, this is the service that gives you everything you need all in one place. Start your first month trial for just $1 at marketrebellion.com/crypto. So we appreciate that, guys. We've had a lot of new people join our community as VGX is really pumped, as well as the other collective cryptocurrency market. And so going down to the big boards here, we can see we have Bitcoin kind of consolidating. And I had to redraw the downward sloping trend line after we did not close above it. Remember, we had this green 2 when Uncle Elon came through and said, I support Bitcoin now. I'm going to add it to my profile bio. And there was a lot of people who went short here, myself included. And when we got that, they all got short squeezed out. Remember, we had a record liquidation of about 300 million. So ever since that fervor has kind of died down, we've just seen this bearish neutral consolidation kind of in the midst of all these weird resistance levels on the Williams alligator. So, I might have to get short again here if we test the $30,000 support level, because each time this gets tested, guys, once, twice, 3, 4, and then if we do it another 5th time, this support level is just getting weaker and weaker. And the more we go towards this apex without actually breaking above the downward sloping trend line, that's just very concerning from a bullish perspective, from the macro overall landscape. So what would make me bullish? We got to get a close above our previous high, and we actually have to have a sustained bullish consolidation above this level to prove that this may in fact have been a new higher low for the macro trend. But right now, I can't get short and I can't necessarily go long in the short term. So I'm waiting patiently and I'm looking for a retest and possible break below this 30K support level. There's nothing inherently bullish that's kind of pushing us out of the channel. So we'll have to see. I remain neutral on this. I'm sure you guys have some different opinions, but I'd love to pass it off now.
Yeah. So when we were talking last week, I was taking a look at the 4-hour chart, and I'm kind of looking for exactly what CJ was just talking about, and that's a consolidation out of that downward sloping triangle. So I highlighted 3 levels on Friday that I was looking for 1 to 2 candle closes above that first 34.43 level right here. And as you can see, we didn't get that. I think if you just looked at these technicals, although there was a lot of fervor around Bitcoin, sentiment was popping off, lots of people talking about it on Twitter. We had Elon Musk talking about it. And we got this massive spike on this green 9 candle, followed by this doji. And you can see the volume here just absolutely spiking. So to me, that was kind of an indication that this was just a short-term pop. But to confirm that, like I said, I was waiting for 1 to 2 candles to close and consolidate above this level. But because that didn't happen, I don't really think too much changes. But I wanted to touch on one other thing CJ mentioned here, and that is kind of how this 30K support level is getting a little bit weaker every time we test it. And I completely agree. It's been holding very strong. We've seen a lot of people content to buy Bitcoin right around 30K. So we keep kind of bouncing off this level. But as you can see, it's kind of fizzling out each time. At first, when we bounced off 30K, we got this nice little pop all the way back up to 39K, almost 40K. But now when we're bouncing off, it's a little less volatile and just more kind of sideways trading. This was kind of a one-off event due to the, like I said, just this pop off in sentiment. But I think we're kind of losing momentum and the bounce off 30K is becoming less significant. So I think we're going to break through that level in one of the next times we test it. But one good thing is we're still largely overbought on the weekly level. But every time we kind of bounce off this 30K level and continue to trade sideways, we kind of allow the indicators and the technicals a chance to catch up to the levels of overbought price action that we're seeing here. So it is kind of concerning that we're bouncing off 30K because that support level is weakening, but it is encouraging that the weekly chart is getting less overbought the more time we kind of consolidate in this range. So like CJ said, kind of hard to trade this market right now because you can't really go long, and timing the short is kind of tough because you can really get squeezed out with all the kind of hype around the crypto market right now. So it's a no trade zone for me, but I'm looking for a few more tests of that 30K level. And from there, I will consider entering a trade.
You know,
And I want to add one more bullish case because we've had this downward kind of peak ever since our parabolic run up. And although we have, the honey hole highlighted here at approximately 28 to 26, even all the way down to 22. But if we look at what Link experienced after a peak, we can see that, we didn't come down as hard with Bitcoin, but Link ultimately, after falling, formed this kind of bullish consolidation channel. We were referring to it as a widening mouth. We've broken above resistance on Link, and now we're using that previous upward sloping level as support as we test down. So we may see a funnel of something like this occur on Bitcoin, but it just hasn't formulated yet into anything really substantial that we can go off of. Sorry, just wanted to bring that comparison to light.
No, of course, and that's a great comparison, and it should give at least some people some hope. It's strange that Bitcoin keeps kind of descending, despite eToro signing up 1 million new users last month alone. Voyager signing up record amounts of users, Coinbase hitting the top 10 free apps in the App Store, and it feels like you look at the sentiment charts, right? And the only 2 times Bitcoin's price has popped in the past, say, 72 hours have been off the back of Elon Musk, first on Twitter and then overnight in Clubhouse, right? So each time Elon Musk talks about Bitcoin, it pops up maybe a couple $1,000s before going back down. Why do you think that is? If the user base is clearly growing and more people are involved in the ecosystem, why is the price falling?
Well, one thing that we mentioned a lot on here is how retail traders love altcoins. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing here is they're looking for these opportunities to make quick money with these lower price altcoins. And it's working out well. Retail traders that buy altcoins, it tends to kind of first go into the altcoin market, and then later that will trickle back into Bitcoin as people take the profits from these altcoin trades and look for a more sustained investment. And Bitcoin is the best vehicle for that. But it is just kind of interesting how this is the retail altcoin market is so sentiment driven. It's like you said, Ryan, the only time Bitcoin really popped was when Elon Musk mentioned it. And it's just, I think it just speaks to kind of the herd mentality of the altcoin market. You can really just kind of drive a coin up despite it having really no technical reason or no fundamental reason. If people are trading it, it can really pop. And we saw that with Doge and with lots of other assets this weekend. So I think that's kind of where the money is focused right now. is in these lower cap altcoins.
So it's the Wall Street bets mentality, possibly being inspired by what's happening in the crypto markets.
Yeah, exactly. And although there are lots of comparisons between the people that are making those trades, like the Wall Street bets traders, like it just seems it seems so different with crypto here. Like there was like a good technical reason for them to bet against the short squeeze in GameStop and in AMC. There was, I mean, it was very risky, but it actually had kind of a good technical plan to actually make that work. With these investments in DogeCoin, it's kind of just like, let's see how much we can use our massive community to kind of drive these prices up. There's really no reason why Doge should be pumping as hard as it is, but that's why sentiment indicators are so important.
And if you look at this real quick, this is something I wanted to show everyone on the show. If you look at Doge's sentiment, right? The price, first the sentiment pops up, and then the price goes up. As soon as sentiment drops off, the price craters, and that's how you have people left holding empty bags. And, being able to read these sentiment indicators has helped some people make a lot of money, but others, who weren't as on top of it and who weren't monitoring what's going on, they're left at a disadvantage. And, a lot of people are crying foul and saying that that's unfair and that the markets are unfair. That leads me to not even invest in Doge, right? I won't allocate to it because even though I have access to all of these tools, I just don't think it's a sound investment. I'm not alone in that camp at all.
Yeah,
one of the things that's interesting is, and what Ryan showed on that chart is the sentiment trading and how there's a lag between the sentiment pop and the price pop. And I think what we're going to see, especially with the Wall Street's bets phenomenon, and it's now carrying over into crypto. And I had a meeting this morning with our team on borrow lend risk mitigation on it, because now it's become an issue, right? So now it's propagating the market. But that also goes to show that fundamentals are all but gone. And that, actionable stuff like sentiment, you're going to have a whole new breed of hedge fund managers who are going to be trading this thing, and they're not going to be trading on fundamentals anymore. They're going to be waiting for the Elon Musk to talk. They're going to be waiting for a pump and dump, vibe to come out of a Discord, and they're just going to trade on the sentiment. I mean, I almost see it as like just a new way of doing business almost.
It's funny you mention that, Alex, because we're seeing some very interesting activity coming out of silver. And while it was originally a Wall Street bets idea, and now they've ever since kind of backed off of it, but what we've seen in the unusual option activity room in Market Rebellion is we're seeing a lot of large silver calls, specifically SLV, the ETF. There's a lot of whale interest getting into that on the Wall Street bets type mentality. So it's a very interesting position that I'm following.
I heard that wasn't even real too. I heard that about a couple hours ago that Wall Street bets wasn't even trying to do the silver play.
Yeah, well,
They made it up.
13, or it opened up 12%. That's an incredible amount too. That thing doesn't normally move that much. But we're getting into this stage of narrative economics. And I think that that new concept of using social media data to implement trades is going to be much more impactful for hedge fund managers going forward. There was this interesting individual who created a company called Ticker Tags. And what he would do is take every ticker symbol, or like 300 ticker symbols, and assign a phrase of words to those, and then have an API plug directly into Twitter and other media outlets. And he could actually pick up on certain trade ideas based on, sayings that and their prevalence throughout social media based on those ticker tags. So this type of thing is not completely new, but I definitely think it's going to become much more prevalent, like you said, Alex.
CJ, that's a lot similar to Data Miner. Have you ever used that tool?
Well, yeah, that's what Battlefin and Mark LaPresse are doing a lot. So we don't know exactly how to interpret those tools yet. There's certainly much better people in the field at that. It's not my expertise, but it's becoming much more prevalent and relevant to how we have to trade these markets going into the 21st century.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's move on to Ethereum. What's the action happened there? It's, ever since its all-time high was breached and then it breached 1400 again, a lot's been put on the back burner as far as talk with, all this Doge and Wall Street bets. But has it been making any moves that are important to the market yet?
Well, go ahead, Monty.
Yeah, well, it's kind of nice that we're seeing a little bit of divergence between ETH and Bitcoin. And I say that not in terms of if you just look at like the macro perspective and how they've performed over the last month, but just in terms of kind of if you keep in mind what we were looking at the Bitcoin chart, it was just constantly putting in lower high after lower high. Whereas when we look at with ETH, this chart looks a lot more bullish. It's not constantly setting a lower high, not constantly testing a support level like 30K. So it's not really indicating to me that a breakdown is going to be happening anytime soon. Whereas Bitcoin is kind of screaming that it's going to break below 30K and kind of start testing that honey hole level that CJ highlighted on the Bitcoin chart. So for me, ETH and Bitcoin are in a very different place right now. And I think that is kind of reflecting the influx of retail interest. I think ETH will be a benefactor of that retail capital before Bitcoin will, just because of sort of the hierarchy of the trickle down of these projects. A lot of them are based on ERC20 tokens. So I think Ethereum will be first to kind of see some of that capital flow into its own trading volume, and then we'll see it with Bitcoin. So ETH is looking pretty strong in my opinion.
Monty, that's a great point I wanted to bring up about ETH, right? Some of the highest performing tokens on the Trade the Chain dashboard over the past 30 days, the Phantoms, the Curves, Uniswap, Sushi, Avalanche, Aave, these are all Ethereum ERC20 tokens. And when you look at the momentum building behind them and you see Ethereum just kind of trading a little sideways, maybe trending slightly up, it makes you wonder when ETH is going to have that breakout. And it's only a matter of time if there's actual fundamentals behind ETH versus a Doge or a Litecoin or some other tokens being pumped. And I mean, do you think that breakout, CJ or Monty, is imminent or anytime soon, or do we still have more room to grow before that occurs?
The breakout level for me, at least, is right here on this. Let's see, what is that at? Precisely.
About 1400, right?
Thank you. 1400. And so, we were talking about a series of lower highs on the Bitcoin chart forming a descending triangle. It's interesting to note that we have the inverse of that on Ethereum, despite the fact that ETH and Bitcoin have had such a high correlation. But I'm looking at this 1400 level as a breakout above. The same concept is true. The more we test this resistance level, the weaker it becomes in turn. Now, the only thing that kind of makes me hesitant is if we actually look at the correlation in price between Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's been extraordinarily high. Anything above 0.74 is considered a very high correlation. You can see on the 7-day, we have a 0.77. On the 30-day, it gets even higher to a 0.78. And then, we do have a yearly correlation that is still somewhat significant. It's not over that critical 0.74 level. But, if Bitcoin sells off 10%, I still think it's going to be hard for ETH to rally, even though it is in the midst of this ascending triangle. So there's a lot of factors at play. It's tough to say, but I will be watching this 1400 as a breakout level.
Do you think, and this is something we've discussed before, that increasing correlation is due to the increasing amount of Bitcoin locked on Ethereum?
Yeah, I think because of what's the number at now? I think it's almost like 2 billion or something like that. So it is it really provides at the very least a high correlation between the two, but also it provides kind of a price floor for Ethereum. Like just because of the amount of Bitcoin invested, it can't go too low because there's, like I said, $2 billion locked in ETH. So yeah, you got to take the good with the bad there. There's going to be a high correlation between the two as a result of that. But really, I think I think once it kind of becomes more obvious that their utilities are so different, we may get a little more of a divergence in that correlation. Right now, people are kind of still trading Ethereum like it is just a silver to Bitcoin or kind of a store of value. But like you said, Ryan, so many projects are popping up that are being built on the Ethereum blockchain. I really think people are going to start realizing that ETH has tremendous utility beyond just a store of value or an investment, and that its potential is really massive. So once we kind of get that distinction between ETH's utility and Bitcoin's utility as a store of value, I think that correlation will kind of fall off. But for the time being, yeah, they're trading in a very similar fashion.
More to that point, Monty, the value lock on DeFi projects is now 29 billion as of Friday, right? That's an increase of 2,900% from a year ago. It's only a matter of time, one would think, right? I can't imagine how it wouldn't at least move somewhat higher, just built off of based on that momentum.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Cool. Let's move on to our closeout coin, which has had a lot of hype lately, a lot of noise around this thing. Talking about sentiment. Sentiment has been off the charts for it. The charts have been off the charts for it. It's Doge, everybody's favorite pet. Now, Doge, if you look at it, is just 100% a speculative coin. This trade makes no sense from a fundamental value. It makes all the sense from a sentiment and noise value. What have we been going through on this? Because we had a second mini pump.
On the 31st, KuCoin announced futures contracts on Doge, which that seems even more like
A lot of people getting wrecked.
It's wild how dependent on just the social media pumps from Reddit, from Discord, from Twitter, from Telegram that Doge is. And that's what you mentioned earlier when we were talking about it, right? You have that disconnect between the sentiment spiking before the token spikes. And then when sentiment drops off, you have all these unsuspecting investors left holding bags that get emptied before they know what to do with them. And that just kind of keeps happening with Doge. Didn't it drop something like 70 or 80% last week at one point, I think?
It fell hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost at 9 cents and it's back down to 3 cents. But I mean, if you just think about like where it's at compared to where it was at a month ago, I mean, it's pretty crazy that it's still, I expected it to sell off even harder than it has, but it's holding steady. And I think that just goes back to what you're talking about, Ryan, with like Coinbase seeing record signups and Voyager seeing record signups. And also, if you just look at the Trade the Chain dashboard, that long-term sentiment of 129, I don't think I've ever seen one over 100 on here. So it's just ridiculous. I mean, there's really no reason why it should be this high, but there's also no reason why it can't keep going up. So I'm kind of like reluctant to like openly short this because I mean, the power of sentiment is really pretty obviously strong when you look at Doge's chart.
First of all, is there even a vehicle in which
there's no way to short it? So yeah,
I was going to ask that. If you found a way, I'm in.
Well, let's talk about the fundamental value of Doge, right? Because I do believe, contrary to what Ryan's point was, I do believe there's some fundamental value of Doge.
Based on what?
Based on the fact that it's a common joke.
This is coming from a guy who wore a kimono to work today.
It's meme value.
Yes. If there's anything that something like Doge or Bitcoin Cash has taught us, it's that things do not necessarily trade on intrinsic value or fundamental value, so to speak. Doge has value in the sense that it is a joke. People know it's a joke, and they still like to participate in it just because of that fact. Doge has the Lindy effect built into it. It is somewhat battle tested. This is something that's been around since what, 2013? Doge is one of the few altcoins that's actually survived multiple market cycles. And just to be clear, I am not endorsing a buy of Doge. I don't own Doge. I'm not going to buy Doge, but will it pump like this again in the future? Based on those fundamentals and based on the fact that people have kept it around so long because it's a joke, it makes me a little skeptical in the sense of how long these communities can actually survive and go on for, because it has been through multiple market cycles, and it may stick around as this, you know, comical joke organized by the internet.
Dude, 20x leverage on KuCoin futures for DogeCoin. I mean, yeah, sure, take all my money. 20x leverage futures. That takes it beyond the joke, and it makes it kind of dangerous for the uninformed investor, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of upsetting. I mean, some regards, you're just giving the tools for people to just blow themselves out of the market. But CJ, did you also equate that to Bitcoin Cash? Is that what I heard before? I'm calling Roger. Forget
Roger
that.
Ver is not as funny as Dogecoin, but I don't know what the value is there.
Oh my God. All right, folks. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. Doge, as always, is going to be the story of this week, it looks like, as well. And who knows what Elon Musk will be the CEO of next. That's the big question. They should have that futures contract on KuCoin. Guys, hang on to your handlebars. Watch out for those honey holes. And we will see you again tomorrow. Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye, everyone.